Hello, 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 all and one, all the weirdos out there, the degenerates, you fuckers, and welcome to the Indecent Exposure Show, episode 15. Today we're going to be doing a comic boy rants episode. However, it's going to be comic books in the sense of comic movies, as in Doctor Strange. Because I went to see Doctor Strange the night it came out, but I decided to do a review tonight because it's been like 2 weeks since the movie's come out. So I'm pretty sure most people have seen it. So I wanted to lay off on the spoilers. So if you haven't seen the movie, then that's too fucking bad. Just go listen to something else. Come back when you've actually seen the movie and you good, you coolin'. But if you still here, then come through and let's vibe. All right, so I went to see the movie the day it came out. I'm with my boy Mike. He runs the Jabroni show, the Jabroni God, homeless Jabroni. So me and him go to Court Street Theater in Brooklyn. If you Brooklyn or wherever downtown Brooklyn, you know where it's at. So we go down there and we buy our tickets, and the bad guy is supposed to search us, but he never fucking searches us. He just straight up says, "Yo, could you take off the bags?" And then he straight up turns around, and then he doesn't pay attention to us anymore. We didn't even have to open it. We legitimately could have had guns and assault weapons and drugs and started selling drugs out that theater, but he wouldn't have known. Yeah, so we get down there, and this premiere was a weird fucking premiere. It was a really weird fucking premiere. Because mind you, we get down there, there's like 11 floors to this bitch, and they send us to the basement. There's 11 floors, and they send us to the basement. Two black guys get sent to a basement, so shit is about to go down, really. Shit is about to go down. So we go into the basement, and we actually get there, and it's not a full house. It's barely anybody. So thankfully, we get our seats quick. So we get our seats. People start coming in and all that shit, and then the commercials come on. Everything's good for a little while. The commercials start going. We was just ignoring the shit, and then for some reason the movie starts. Like, they finish all the commercials and it's supposed to go to the trailers for upcoming movies, but nah. They just said, "Yo, we skipping all that shit." So the fucked up thing, the funny thing is, all the commercials we fucking heard before were playing while the fucking movie was going. Like, the beginning of the movie had commercial audio. So this librarian gets his fucking head cut off, and we hear a fucking Target commercial in the background, like, "Oh yeah, come in on Black Friday or Christmas," and I'm just fucking done. They got Christmas jingles. They got fucking Pokemon Sun and Moon commercial happening while somebody's trying to fucking fight, and it was fucking hilarious. It was a big meme. Legitimately, that premiere was a big ass meme. Dead ass, really, just a big ass meme. It was amazing. And we're not done with the fuck ups. We got to get to the movie. So they finish that. They get the movie started, and it opens up with Doctor Strange. He's in surgery. They're fleshing out his character a bit. He's listening to music and all that shit. And we could tell off the bat, this guy thinks a lot of himself. Like, he's very confident to the point of being somewhat egotistical. So, Rachel McAdams is his love interest. So, and I'm sorry, in case you don't know, Doctor Strange, Stephen Strange, is played by Benedict Cumberbatch. Not Benedict Cumberbatch, Cumberpatch. Batch. So just make sure, Cumberbatch. So it opens up with them, and it's kind of letting us know that Rachel McAdams' character, I can't remember her name, unfortunately, but Rachel McAdams' character, I'm just going to call it McAdams. So McAdams and, Strange are walking around and they're talking about shit, and it's just like, you know, you used to take me to these places. You used to love going to these places. No, you loved going to these places because it was all about you. It's never about us. So it's kind of obvious that they dated before. But this is not important. What's important is they get through all that shit, and then he's supposed to go to the banquet, so he gets ready. And mind you, you can tell he's like a famous neurosurgeon, because before Doctor Strange became a sorcerer, he was a very famous and wealthy surgeon, and he had a lot of like Rolexes. He had a lot of cars, big ass house, and all this shit. So I'm like, woohoo, woohoo. So he's driving on the highway, and of course it's like a rainy ass night. You know, he's driving way too fucking fast, and they're giving us some Easter eggs like, oh, you know, this guy's fucked up spine. Do you wanna operate on this? Nah. And they're talking about a guy from Iron Man 2 who tested a suit out that I think Justin Hammer was trying to build and perfect, and it kind of bent him in half, which just means they're kind of playing with the timeline. And I think it happens before the Avengers. I think it happened sometime around after the Avengers and maybe before Winter Soldier. I'm not sure. I'm really not. But it's definitely after the Avengers. Because we see Avengers Tower in the movie. So it's after the Avengers. Anyway, back to him. So he's on the road, and he's going, you know, in zigzags and shit, turning on roads. It's one of those cliff roads, you know, that shit out in the country that people shouldn't be driving on if they don't have any fucking experience. And, of course, he crashes. And this is a gruesome as fuck crash. Gruesome as fuck. Like, just worse than the Paul Walker shit. It was gruesome as fuck. It was very well done. Then the next thing we see is him waking up in a hospital, and his hands are just fucked up. They're just full of stitches, and they're shaking. And Rachel McAdams is there, and she's, you know, trying to console him. And he's just like, yo, what the fuck you do to my hands? What did you do to my hands? And then everybody's just like, well, we couldn't have done any better. And of course, Stephen Strange, still being Stephen Strange, is basically, I could have done better, and all that shit. Because he's still full of himself. He's still an egomaniacal guy. So then the next scene we see is him looking for cures. And he's been spending, you know, hundreds of thousands of probably millions of dollars. He's been spending his fortune looking for a cure, any experimental thing that can help him with his hands. So he's doing that, and we see Rachel McAdams' character is just like, yo, this is obsession. This isn't looking for medicine. This is just an obsession now. And he drives her away. And then next we actually see him at some rehab clinic, and the black guy, he's got a black rehab guy with him, you know, a trainer with him. And Stephen is just like, look, I'm never gonna get better. Have you ever seen someone in my position get better? And of course the black guy says, yeah, I've seen one guy paralyzed all the way from the neck down, and he made a full recovery. And of course Stephen Strange can't believe this shit, because, you know, he's a pessimist. He's very grounded in reality. He takes things as he sees them. And that goes back to the ego thing. This movie is honestly going to center around the ego part of Stephen Strange a lot, because that was also very important in the comics. And that's the whole thing with his hands being fucked up, is it actually taught him humility, you know, his journey. But back to the black guy. So he brings him the file of the guy who actually got himself healed, and Stefan goes to find this guy. He finds the guy, and he tells him, yeah, yo, I need your help and all that shit. And the guy's just like, yo, I remember you You that nigga who didn't operate on me. And Steven's just like, yo, you were incurable. I couldn't cure you. I couldn't do anything for you. And so Steven asks him how did he do it. And he tells him that he went to a mystical summit, which is Kambertosh or Kamantosh, whatever. But it's basically like mountains in Tibet. So Steven goes there, and he actually finds his way there. You know, some dudes try to rob him, and Mordo, Baron Mordo, who's a very famous sorcerer, very powerful sorcerer, at least in the comics. In the movie, he's very well trained, but we'd have to see, you know, what happens later on. I'm gonna get to that eventually, but you know, just keep that in mind. So he finds it with the help of Mordo, and he goes in there and he meets with the Ancient One, and the Ancient One is the current Sorcerer Supreme. In the comics, the Ancient One is a Tibetan monk, very old, very ancient Tibetan monk, and he actually dies, and that's how Stephen Strange becomes the new Sorcerer Supreme. And she shows him, you know, she's just like, she shows him three things, like an anatomy of the body, chakra points and all this shit. And Steven just goes crazy. He's just like, yo, I used the last of my money to fucking get here, and you're just showing me shit that I've seen before. And he's like, what the fuck is wrong with you? So the Ancient One starts dropping some truth on him. He's just like, yo, she's just like, yo. He was like, you just can't, just because you can't believe something doesn't mean it doesn't exist, and all that shit. And so, you know, she reveals magic. He's just like, magic is the reason why he actually, you know, was able to become unparalyzed. And of course, Steven can't believe this. He definitely can't believe this. Then he actually gets like awakened by the Ancient One. So the Ancient One touches him on his head and actually sends him on a journey, and is like an astral form journey. It's like an astral form journey. So she shows him all these different places, all these different realities, which was fucking amazing. Honestly, just showing this all these different realities. It's the multiverse, and that's what was so dope about this movie to me, is that they introduced the multiverse. It's a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful thing. It introduces the fucking multiverse. I'm like, boy, you know I needed that multiverse. And they delivered. So she shows him the multiverse, you know, all this shit going across, and we get a little peek at someone who's going to be very important later on in the movie. Very important. However, I'm going to backtrack a little bit for this next part of the film. I skipped over a little part because of the fucking Target thing. But at the beginning of the film, there's a sorcerer named Caecilius, who's somewhat the main villain of this film, who is with a few other pupils. Excuse me. Who's with a few other of his pupils, and they actually go into the library, you know, in Kambertosh, and they attack the librarian, and they kill the librarian. They decapitate him, which is fucking dope. They didn't show it directly, but they kind of showed shadows, because it's a PG-13 thing. And then they take a page out of a book. They take a ritual out of one of the Ancient One's forbidden tomes. You don't know what a tome is? It's basically a magic spell book. So they take one of those and they leave, and the Ancient One chases after them, and she nearly wipes them out, and they escape through a portal, and yada yada yada. And then we're back up to where we left off. So she shows him all that, and then he's just like, just teach me. And she just says no, and she throws him out, which I thought was fucking hilarious. She throws him out, and then she's talking to Mordo, and she's just like, yo, you think I was too hard on him? And then Mordo is just like, I mean, you don't want to do another pupil, right? That's what you're scared of, right? And then she's just like, eh. And Mordo's just like, well, you might need all the help you can get. And then she eventually lets him come back in. And so they start off his training. So the Ancient One and Mordo train Doctor Strange. They put him out with all the other pupils. They have these rings, these like dimension rings that they can use to actually hop different dimensions. They can hop different dimensions. And so Steven, the fucked up thing is she transports him to Mount Everest, and she actually leaves him to make the portal himself. Because to use the magic, you actually have to imagine, you have to see where you want to go in order to use it. And the whole thing about Steven was, before this, he wasn't able to use it because he thought, yo, it's about my hands. I can't use my hands. That's why it's not working. So she pulls out this old master who only has one hand. He legitimately enough has a stub for another hand on the other hand. And, this shakes Steven up a bit. But it shows him that it's mental. It's not physical. It's just mental. So he's able to do it. And then this is where things are starting to, come up for Steven. This was where he comes up for Steven. And he's able to excel at his training from here on. And he's excelling a little bit too quickly. However, let's go back to Carsilius. He's conducting rituals, and it's actually revealed that he is trying to contact Dormammu, and Dormammu is a lord, the ruler of the Dark Dimension. We could say that Dormammu is the Dark Dimension itself, and the Dark Dimension, as explained in the film, was a place where time it doesn't exist. It's just forever. Nothing dies. So that's the Dark Dimension. And Carsilius is trying to bring the Dark Dimension to Earth. It's to Earth. So he's contacting him. But that, we'll come back to that later. So back to Steven. They're training him. And another dope thing is that they kind of had a little weapon. And Mordo revealed, they did like a little spoiler, it's just like, oh, the staff of the Living Tribunal. And when I heard that, I was like, boy, oh shit, boy. Because when the Living Tribunal in Marvel Comics is the number 2 to the One Above All, which is Marvel's version of God. Basically, Marvel versions of God. And the Living Tribunal is second to him, which means, the One Above All sends him to actually go and do his bidding. But his primary function, his primary position is that he actually judges people. Like, he's the tribunal. Like, he has 4 faces, and he goes around judging cosmic level crimes, which is crimes that affect the entire universe on a cosmic level, honestly. Like Civil War, for instance, wouldn't attract him. However, anything mystical, anything that can, fuck with reality itself, he'll go and investigate those, because those are worth his time. Because that can do serious damage to the universe. So that was it right there. So I love the Marvel Cosmic, so I caught that immediately, and thankfully my boy did too. So moving on. He's training him. He's he's progressing quickly, and this is where he meets Wong. Wong in the comics is kind of like his caretaker. It's kind of like Bruce Wayne and Alfred. Wong takes care of him because Doctor Strange lives in the Sanctum Sanctorum. Sanctum Sanctorum, and which is in New York. We get to that in a bit. But he meets Wong, and Wong kind of helps him with his books, training, helping him out. And then he goes to the library one day, and he sees an eye on the table, like a mystical pendant on the table, and he actually just messes with it because he's American. Of course, he's got to mess with it. So he puts it on this glowing green thing, and he's able to use it, which he shouldn't be able to. And he's able to use it, and he's able to use it to manipulate the matter of an apple. He's able to make most of the apple disappear and then reappear again, which shows us that he is messing with time. It's time. And he uses that, and then he uses it to bring back the page that Caecili's actually stole, so he's actually able to read it. Then Mordo comes in, which I appreciated because up to this point Mordo had little to no characterization, and so Mordo was able to actually show off some more characterization, because up to this point Mordo was just that generic guy. Oh, come through, come to our cult and all that shit. But we didn't really know who Mordo was. But back to the scene. This scene shows us that he has a very big appreciation, or he's very strict about keeping reality the way it's supposed to be, as in don't bend reality, because the green gem that Doctor Strange picked up is the Eye of Agamotto, which we later find out is the Time Stone, or Time Gem, if you want to go by the comics. But Mordo does not enjoy seeing someone use the Time Stone for anything. He's just, when he comes in, he just fucking jumps on Doctor Strange like, do you know what could have happened? You could have fucking you could have looped time. You could have destroyed the entire universe of time. You could have destroyed everything. And then Steven is just looking at him like, yo, all right, bro, calm down. I'm sorry. So that's how we find out about that it's the Time Stone. That's fucking awesome. I mean, I wish they had kept the Eye of Agamotto as an actual eye, but I mean, if they give him a replacement later on, like the Eye of Agamotto is kind of one of the magical artifacts that gives Doctor Strange his powers, because he's extremely powerful sorcerer. He's probably one of the most powerful Avengers ever. Like he's up there with Thor and everybody because of the things he can do. Because at the height of his power, he can take on the Celestials. And if you don't know who the Celestials are, Google them. Google the Celestials, Marvel Comics Celestials, and you'll see why he's a fucking problem. But back to the scene. So he he yells at Doctor Strange, and he's yelling at him because after he used the Eye of Agamotto, or the Time Stone, to actually recreate the page, he actually starts reading from the page, and later we find out that that was a ritual to actually summon Dormammu. So Mordo was pissed about that, but he was just as surprised that Doctor Strange could actually even use the Eye of Agamotto, which shows us that just how far Strange has come. So right after that, the Sanctum Sanctorum in London gets attacked, because there's three Sanctum Sanctorums. There's the one in London, there's the one in Hong Kong, and if you read Doctor Strange comics, you'll be familiar with the one in New York. So they all go to the one in the one in London gets attacked and gets destroyed, and then later on the one in New York gets attacked, and on the way there they get separated. They get separated because Doctor Strange gets kind of locked in to the one in New York because there's an explosion in the library, near the library where Doctor Strange and Wong and Mordo are. So Strange is the only one in the Sanctum Sanctorum at the time, and we see Caecili's, and he kills the guardian of the Sanctum Sanctorum, just some black guy. He's a bald dude too. I appreciate that. I plan on going bald eventually, like going the baldy look. So it looked good on him. It gave me hope. But back to it. Um, so they kill him, and then Doctor Strange has that whole. It's one of the cliches of comics that I hate. It's just like, I'm gonna wait until the guy is dead, and then I'm going to try and help. So then Doctor Strange gets attacked by Kissilies and about 3 of his crew. And Strange is able to take out about 2 of them, and he's able to lock Kissilies in this locking mechanism artifact thing due to help from the Cloak of Levitation. And if you read the comics, you'll understand that the Cloak of Levitation is Doctor Strange's red cloak that he has on him. It allows him to fly, and it gives him, that's basically all it does. I mean, it does more than that, but that's the basics of it. It helps him fly. Then one of them actually gets free because he only took out 2 of them. There was a third one, and he's injured. Well, Doctor Strange is injured, so he has to go to the hospital and actually, go and talk to the woman, his ex-lover, Rachel McAdams. Then he actually asked her to actually save him, his surgery, because he got hit. He got mortally wounded by actually a spell. So then the other guy actually comes, and he also follows Doctor Strange to the hospital. So then he fights him in his astral form. Doctor Strange and this guy fight in their astral form, and that is basically what happened. That's the whole thing. They fight in their astral form, and then Doctor Strange wins, and he shows her, oh, I'm not in a cult. I'm actually going to show you the portal so that, you'll actually understand that, boom, I'm not actually crazy. So he shows her, and she's just like, oh my god, you're not crazy. And and that's the basic thing. So he goes back to the Sanctum Sanctorum, and there he meets the Ancient One and Mordo. And Doctor Strange is like, yo, I'm a doctor. I don't want to kill anybody. Oh, I'm sorry. Before this, Kaiselis escapes. But yeah, so he's talking to Mordo and the Ancient One. He's like, I don't want to kill anybody. I'm a doctor. I became a doctor to save lives, not to take them. And so Mordo was just like, yo, man up, man. Stop being a bitch nigga. Man up. Like, man up, yo. This is bigger than you. And Strange is like, nah, I'm done, man. I'm done. I can't deal with this. And then we also find out, this is a little detail, so I skipped over it, but Kaiselis kind of tells Strange that the Ancient One uses the Dark Dimension to actually fuel her powers. And the Dark Dimension, as I stated before, was Dormammu's realm. So she siphons energy from there in order to use her powers, because she's immortal, supposedly immortal. And Mordo is tight about this. Mordo is tight as fuck about this. He's like, yo, boy, wait, you're not who I thought you were? You fucking using power from the Dark Dimension, but we fighting against the Dark Dimension? So, yo, what's good? And then the Ancient One's just like, well, you don't understand. And Mordo is just like, nah, you lied to me. And I think that's one of the things that kind of makes Mordo do what he does later on in the movie, which I'll get to. So we finish with that, and then Kaiselis actually attacks the New York Sanctum again, and this time Mordo and Doctor Strange are waiting for him, and he threatens to actually destroy the Sanctum as soon as he gets there, because he's not an idiot. But Doctor Strange puts him into the mirror dimension. And if I didn't state this before, because I have bad memory, the mirror dimension is basically this place, this reality outside of our reality. It's mirrored to it, where there's actually no damage that can come to the normal world, So that he puts him in there. However, Kaisilis, because of his connection to Dormammu, is actually stronger in the mirror dimension than he is in the regular world. And so Strange and Mordo are trying to run from him, trying to fight him off, until they're saved by the Ancient One. However, the Ancient One gets wounded, and unfortunately, she also has to go back to the hospital where Clarice is, Doctor Strange's ex-lover. And her and Doctor Strange kind of have this talk in their astral forms, and she tells him, I've been preparing for this day my entire life. Every time I have a vision, I can see up to this point, but I can't see further. And this is one of the things that makes this movie so great for me, because I love spirituality, like spiritual concepts. And it's a beautiful movie, really, really is. So they're talking about, maybe death is just another thing, another journey that we have to go up to. It's fucking amazing. And she also finally tells him how to fix his hands. It's just like put magic into them constantly and your hands will be fixed. And then she passes on. However, this part, it kind of ruined it because they had the sad music on and all that shit. And then some woman in the front of the theater is just like, I would have revived her. And I'm just fucking, oh god, why you fucking here? Because this woman fucking just keeps talking in the front of the movie theater, and it was amazing to listen to. It's amazing to listen to. It really was. Court Street is amazing. But then after this, the London Sanctum Sanctorum is actually attacked, and that is where the Hong Kong Sanctum Sanctorum is attacked, because Kaisilis tried to attack New York twice, and he actually couldn't do it, so he figured just go to Hong Kong. So they get to Hong Kong, and they find Wong and everybody dead. Mordo and Doctor Strange, because Doctor Strange is able to convince Mordo to actually come back, because Mordo is very on the fence about this. Everything that he thought he knew was a lie. And so in his eyes, sorcery is something that doesn't need to exist, or at least not on the level that it is on. But we'll get to that later. So back to Hong Kong. We find Wong and everybody dead, and the Sanctorum is in ruins. So Doctor Strange uses the Eye of Agamotto and actually rewinds time. And while time is rewinding, he and Mordo go to the Sanctum Sanctorum in order to defend it from Kaisilis. Try and defend it. And I'm going to tell you, the effects for this were beautiful, because there was some guy, the thing that came out to me is there's all bodies all around, everybody, people are decapitated, there's fires everywhere, people on fire. And the thing that stood out most to me is when they're rewinding time, we see this guy who got into a car crash, kind of like the Paul Walker thing, and then he came backwards. So instead of coming out of the car, he's going back in the car, and then he went windshield. It was fucking wild, man. So Wong, Strange, and Mordo are actually getting ready for Kaisili's assault. However, before they have a chance to rewind time, Kaisilis somehow frees himself, because Kaisilis is a bad man in this movie, for real. He is not just like a novice sorcerer. He's a master. And he somehow breaks the Eye of Agamotto and stops it. So it's not in a loop. It's not if time is stopped. So Strange decides, okay, what am I going to do in this situation? And he decides to go to the dark dimension where Dormammu is. And while he's there, when he gets there, he says the most famous words, and you've probably seen this in a meme somewhere, but Dormammu, I've come to bargain. And I'm just like, yo, boy, what is this? What's gonna happen? What's gonna happen? I'm not gonna lie, that part made me hype for no reason whatsoever. And then Dormammu actually asks, all right, fuck nigga, what you doing here? What you want? I am Dormammu. I am all powerful. This is my realm. This realm is me. What do you want? And he's just like, yo, I've come to bargain. And so he just kills him. He just kills him. However, right before coming there, the funny thing about it, the fucking epic part of this movie, is that Doctor Strange used the time gem to actually loop time. It's in a time loop. So every time he died, it would start right from when he started to meet Dormammu. And he died a lot of times because they just kept showing death over and 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 over again. There must have been at least like 20 to 100. I can't even name all the deaths, but he died a lot. Then Dormammu finally gets sick of it. He's like, all right, what do you want? He's just like, yo, I want you to leave Earth alone, and I want you to actually take Caecilius and his followers into your realm. And he's just like, why should I do that? He's just like, you're my prisoner. I could die forever, but then you'd have to kill me forever. And essentially the thing about Dormammu is he hates time. He doesn't enjoy it. So he introduced time into the dark dimension, and Dormammu goes crazy about this. Because essentially, he'd be his prisoner, because Doctor Strange doesn't care if he's there forever. Because he's like, okay, as long as I'm saving lives, I'm fine. However, you gotta keep killing me. You are essentially my prisoner because you're doomed to repeat this over and over and over again. And Dormammu just loses it. He's just like, all right. And he agrees to the bargain. So that's how they actually defeat Dormammu and Caecilius. Then we actually, right after that, Mordo says, yo, I'm done. I can't do this anymore. I will not be a part of this. You may have used the Eye of Agamotto, but it doesn't make it right. Even though you saved the world with it, doesn't make it right. And essentially, I understand what Mordo is saying. Because playing with reality is a very serious thing. Because if you keep playing with reality, eventually reality may break. And so I really understand where Mordo is coming from. That's the thing I like. It's not like Loki, where it was kind of like an insecurity thing. Like, I need this. I need to become king. Or even a greed thing with like the Winter Soldier and Hydra and all that stuff. It's not conquering. It's not greed. It's not conquest. None of those things. It's simply a need to make a balance. And I can truly understand that, which is why I'm so hyped for Doctor Strange 2. Because he's very fed up. I really can understand his viewpoint, which is why I really appreciate him as, you know, a character by the end of the film. And I'm very excited to see what Doctor Strange 2 is going to do. Because, you know, Mordo's going to come back, and I'll tell you why in a second. But he actually leaves. He says, I'm done. Done. You guys can have, you know, all your shit. You can keep your magic. I can't deal with this anymore. I can't be a part of this. And so he leaves. And it's only Stefan and Wong left. And they kind of have to take over the reins for everything because the Ancient One is dead. Mordo's gone. So they kind of have to be the main pillar points. And at the end is when Wong says, you know, there are many mysteries for the Sorcerer Supreme. He's just like, it's not easy to control an Infinity Stone. And that is when he told us, yeah, basically it's the time gem. So that's basically it. So that's the end of the movie. Now let's get to the mid-credit scene and after-credit scene. So the mid-credit scene is where Thor is in the Sanctum Sanctorum talking to Doctor Strange. And he's talking about Loki and all that shit. He's just like, yo, I got a list of people who could be a problem to this world. So, you know, what's good with you? I'm like, you shouldn't be here. And Thor is just like, just me and Loki are looking for a father. Odin, he's on Earth. So, you know, once we find him, we'll leave. He's like, all right, once you find him, you leave? All right, I got you, boy. And so he agrees to help him. And this makes it weird because we're going to supposedly see Doctor Strange in Thor Ragnarok, which is a weird thing because before it's just like, wait, was this Captain America? So, you know, later on, because this is a very different looking Doctor Strange because he looks a lot more confident, a lot more sure of himself. And the fact that he's been making lists of people who are existential threats kind of shows that he's progressed a very long time from where he was. And the after credit scene is the guy earlier, the paralyzed guy. He actually shows up in his garage and Mordo comes, and then Mordo is like, "Oh yeah, boy, sorry, but you know magic, so technically you're a sorcerer, so I'ma have to take your magic now. It's too many sorcerers." And that's it. That's what Mordo said. Too many sorcerers, and supposedly he takes his magic, and I don't really know. I guess the guy was just fodder. Honestly, nobody gave a shit about the guy too much. So he's just like, yeah, we just need to show that Mordo actually is gonna do this, and he's gonna be the villain of the next Doctor Strange movie. Let's have him just kill some defenseless fuck that no one cares about, but we know actually knows magic, and that's honestly what kind of made me excited for the next Doctor Strange movie, because Mordo is gonna be the villain, and Mordo isn't your typical villain, because well, not what he's doing isn't wrong, because you take the magic from people, like that doesn't make it right, but if you actually look at his reasoning for it, it's actually not bad reasoning, because if sorcerers are going around and they're actually doing whatever they want with no regard for the laws of nature, the laws of reality, and they just keep breaking them over and over again, eventually it'll probably break. And I can agree with what Mordo says, not necessarily what he does for this movie. But yeah, this movie was awesome, in my opinion. It's one of my favorite Marvel movies, one of my favorite origin stories. Honestly, it's in my top 3, if not my top 5 of Marvel movies. And I'm going to do a list later on. But I loved everything about Doctor Strange, because Benedict Cumberbatch got Doctor Strange down to a T. He was Doctor Strange. It's amazing. Amazing movie. So I enjoyed it. I especially enjoyed the theater I was in with all the black people. Like, boy, nigga probably got his hand fixed and everything. Like, what's good? Fucking movie just kept going off and shit. It was fun. It really was fun. I enjoyed it. So if you haven't seen Doctor Strange yet, then, go see it. Go see it. If you have seen Doctor Strange and you got the money for it, go see it again. Especially if you haven't seen it in IMAX. Unfortunately, I haven't seen it in IMAX, but I'm broke right now, so it's not happening yet. But I enjoyed it. I hope you did too, and I hope you enjoyed this episode as much as I enjoyed making it. As much as I enjoyed making it. So it's been the Weird Weirdo. This has been a Decent Exposure show. I hope you enjoyed, and peace, motherfuckers.